Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janananda Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasoda Nandana Brajajanarana. Yasoda Nandana Brajajanarana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. 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 Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotaya Satishla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Shishi Gauranitai Ki Shishi Krishna Balaram Ki Shishi Radha Govardhana Ki Nu Govardhan Dham Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Harinama Sankirtanam Ki Priyatamdanga Ki Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru Garanga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Badaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paschachate Shatarine. Hare Krishna. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 21, text number 40. Conversation between Manu and Kardama. Punya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Punya Druma Lata Jalai Kujat Punya Mriga Vijay Sarvartu Bhala Pushpadhyang Vanaraji Shriyanvitam Punyadruma Lata Jalai Kujat Punya Mrigad Vijay Sarvartu Phala Pushpadhyang Vanaraji Shriyanvitam Punyadrumalata Jalai Kujat Punya Mrigad Vijayi Sarvartu Pala Pushpadhyang Vanaraji Shriyanvitam Punyadrumalata Jalai Kujat Punya Mrigad Vijayi Sarvartu Phala Pushpadhyang Vanaraji Shriyanvitam Ages. Punya Mrigad Vijayi Sarvartu Phala Pushpadhyang Vanaraji Shriyanvitam. Punya, pious. Druma, of trees. Lata, of creepers. Jalai, with clusters. Kujat, uttering cries. Punya, pious. Mriga, animals. Dvijayi, with birds. Sarva, in all. Ritu, seasons. Phala, in fruits. Pushpa, in flowers. Adhyam, rich. Vanaraji, of groves of trees. Shriya, by the beauty. Anvitam, adorned. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. So we're at Bindu Sarovara. If you were here yesterday, you'll remember. We've reached Bindu Sarovara. You have a Bindu Sarovara lake here? They're named Bindu Sarovara? No. Pardon? Who would know? Mahamantra Prabhu. Where is he? Yeah. Building a house, okay. His whole life is building a house. Building a house for the whole world to live in. Jai. So we're at Bindu Sarovara, and Manu and his wife and his daughter have arrived there on a mission. And Maitreya Muni is describing this, discussing this with Vidura. And we're reading now on text number 40. The shore of the lake. No, that's okay. Is it on the screen here? Okay, you don't need to repeat. The shore of the lake was surrounded by clusters of pious trees and creepers, rich in fruits and flowers of all seasons, that afforded shelter to pious animals and birds, which uttered various cries. It was adorned by the beauty of groves of forest trees. Sounds nice. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is stated here that Bindu Sarovara was surrounded by pious trees and birds. As there are different classes of men in human society, some pious and virtuous, and some impious and sinful, so also among trees and birds there are pious and impious. Trees which do not bear nice fruit or flowers are considered impious, and birds which are very nasty, such as crows, are considered impious. In the land surrounding Bindu Sarovar, there was not a single impious bird or tree. Every tree bore fruits and flowers, and every bird sang the glories of the Lord. How Prabhupada writes it here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sometimes we see birds singing Hare Krishna. I remember in Christchurch there was one cockatoo there. Some of you may have remembered, Alalas Prabhu, you may remember the cockatoo of Christchurch. You remember him? They would call him Cocky. He used to chant the Mahamantra. They trained him up to chant. And when you come into the reception room of the Christchurch temple, maybe, I don't know, he passed away maybe 30 or 40 years ago, I don't know. When you come into the temple room, or to the temple building rather, in the reception, there was Cocky in his cage. As soon as you come, you say, Haribol, you are not your body, your spirit soul. Chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. He would preach like this to everyone who came in, not about who they were. You know, some of those devotees would sit and chant their japa with him, you know. And they chant together, you know, Hare Krishna together. Because he wasn't necessarily conscious of what was going on, but it was some incredibly pious bird, that's for sure. You know, incredible. Huh? Some birds, maybe you've got some here in New Govardhana, they can repeat they can speak the language, or so to speak. They may not understand it, it's not spontaneous, it's in certain circumstances, but it's very pious. So when we hear different trees, it's kind of hard to imagine. People just sort of see them as trees and or birds. And I guess you can distinguish between a lorikeet, is that what it's called? A lorikeet? Very colorful bird. You have have you had them here in New Govardhana? I saw a lot down south. Lorikeets. Beautiful birds, isn't it? I mean, that's karma. They're not creating any karma, but it's karma from a previous lifetime. It's some degree of piety that they're very beautiful. And their behavior, I don't know what they do. I mean, most of the birds probably are not so pure in their behavior. But particularly the swan is known and mentioned here as being an emblem in the bird family of more or less the mode of goodness. It doesn't mean that they're, consciously living in that mode, but their result of their previous lifetime has resulted in them getting that particular body. The previous lifetime means human. The particular body which is considered more pious. They generally, perhaps we can read something. Do we have the first canto of Bhagavatam here? First canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Welcome the devotees we haven't seen so far. It's nice to see you all. Hare Krishna. Tara, Hare Krishna. Good to see you. Haridas. Well, we met in New Zealand, didn't we? You were on that tour in New Zealand with the young devotees. Thanks. Let's see where we go here. Well, there's some famous verses. Let's just hear something about the departure of Krishna. Here, Krishna's entrance into Dwarka. Some of you have read this book. Have you seen this book before? It's called Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. You seen it, Haridas? Yeah. Have you read it? Will, in the future. Time will come. So, let's see. Here we go. Text number 12 of the 11th chapter, Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwarka. This is so sublime purport by Srila Prabhupada. The city of Dwarkapuri was filled with the opulences of all seasons. There were hermitages, orchards, flower gardens, parks, and reservoirs of water breeding lotus flowers all over.
purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, perfection of human civilization is made possible by utilizing the gifts of nature in their own way. What did Prabhupada say? What did he say? Summarize, you may not word for word. What did he just say? Pardon? Perfection of nature is by utilizing human beings in their proper way, is it? We have to use these humans properly, then nature will be perfect. He could word it that, but that's not what Prabhupada quite said. What did he say? What type of civilization? Human civilization, okay. Perfection of human civilization. How is it made possible? Utilizing what? Pardon? The gifts of nature, okay, and in their own way. You don't have to change it. We're always busy changing it, aren't we? Trying to adjust it to my perspective. Huh? It's our perspective which has to change, not nature. We're so busy trying to change nature. But it's our perspective, even our own nature. Of course, we'd hope that would change for the better. But in one sense, it's the way we look at it, because whatever we think is our present nature is only an external result of our karma. It's not actually us. And we tend to see it as us. This is me. Okay, it's related, and obviously we have to work with that, as it says here, in its own way. But we have to understand it for what it is, the external energy, in its own way. There are different modes of nature. We have to learn how to relate. As we find herewith in the description of its opulence, Dwarka was surrounded by flower gardens and fruit orchards, along with reservoirs of water and growing lotuses. You have some of this here, right? Yeah, all of it. Must be Dwarka. No, is Dwarka, Vrindavan, where are we? Bindu Sarovara, where are we here? Vrindavan. Anyone else? Anyone in Dwarka? Anyone in Vrindavan? Your heart is thinking of Vrindavan right now. Isn't that wonderful? It just reminds us of Vrindavan. There's some little successes there. There is no mention of mills and factories supported by slaughterhouses, which are the necessary paraphernalia of the modern metropolis. I don't know what Australia's a little different, but many cities in the world, next stop after Brisbane is Manila. Has anyone been to Manila? You've been there, Sarabi. You've been there, Haridas? Manila? No. You've been there, Anna dear. Manila. You never went to Manila? Yeah. Not vanilla, Manila. Huh? Town outside. Okay. I said I'm going to Philippines next, and I'm going to Manila in Philippines, okay? You been there, Madhumati? Yes, of course you've been there. She's from that place. Anyone else has been there? You've been there. You've also been to Manila. Philippines is a beautiful country, but Manila is kind of an amazing city. It quite often wins the award. Just like Brisbane sometimes wins the award, I think. I may be wrong, correct me if I am. But I've heard that sometimes these Australian cities win the award of the most livable city in the world. And Manila wins the award of the most unlivable city in the world. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's got every city has its, whatever, character. But it certainly has a character, And, there are crows everywhere. And you don't see any other bird whatsoever. Only crows. And there's garbage and, it's just one of those things. There's one park available to the public, and it's a small city of 22 million people. And there's one park in the whole city. And I wouldn't even describe that as a park coming from England. It's kind of like a piece of land where there's some trees and there's some kind of grass, kind of dry grass, bit of a lake. It's kind of artificial type of a park. Very artificial. It's completely artificial. Every other park is out of bounds to the public. It's private, more or less. Unless some of the cemeteries you're allowed in. They're the most beautiful parts of the city. Are the cemeteries. It's just a huge city. You've been there, Coco. You see the crows. You don't see many. There's just so much garbage. The crows aren't enough. There's not enough crows. They go to the best. Like if there's restaurants, you go to the. Everyone goes to the best restaurant, so to speak, and especially when it's free. So their restaurants are free, and there's just mountains of them all over the place. So there's not enough crows. They need to import more crows to get what to do. That's impious, result of impiety. There's always piety there too. The people are really sweet. The country itself is very beautiful, but the city is just like, goodness gracious. In India, 15, 16, out of the top 20 polluted cities in terms of the air, they measure things by not just the air, they measure by all kinds of other factors when they make these decisions of livable or unlivable. Nowhere's livable in this world really, but they say like that. And in India, I think 16 out of 20 of the most air-polluted cities are to be found in India. And the other two or three are either in Bangladesh or Pakistan. Incredible, huh? The land of Dharma, what's happening? Mills and factories everywhere, and even slaughterhouses are there. Even though, they talk what they talk, but slaughterhouses are there. Well, to speak in the Western world. We all grew up with this, right? We grew up with slaughterhouses. And here in Australia, it is quite a big business, is it not? I worked, when I was a school student, I worked in a slaughterhouse. We didn't know the difference between a slaughterhouse and a vegetable shop. It was all the same. There was no education, just money. People have money as the only motive. In a false artificial society, everyone's controlled by money. And, that was what the place was all about. It was about, by the way, it changed, but originally it was all about that, animals and meat. My grandfather was a butcher. We grew up in this culture. Not much of a culture. So you can see the difference here. Why? Because as is mentioned, I don't know if it's mentioned right here in this purport, but it was mentioned just the purpose of this whole arrangement. And it's interesting how Prabhupada said in the purport, how these pious birds, they were making, loud sounds, but they weren't just making loud sounds, but they were singing the glories of the Lord. Prabhupada, you could say he's motivated, but his motivation is absolute. It's not anything other than to please Krishna. They were singing, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All different types of tones. Glorifying the Lord. And in this type of atmosphere, that's what Prabhupada wanted. He wanted us to create an atmosphere which encourages us to chant the holy name. Everything's arranged like that. When the deities are so beautifully dressed, the temple is very clean, the prasadam is very sattvic, the whole property is kept clean, and there's reminders of Krishna everywhere. It's much easier to be Krishna conscious. When you're living with garbage around you and laziness, mode of ignorance, it's not so easy to be Krishna conscious. Of course, the mode of goodness is not our objective goal, but we can see in this particular situation, Bindasarovar is not exactly just the mode of goodness. It is directly a spiritual tirtha, a place of pilgrimage, not for crows. We'll read on. There is no mention of mills and factories supported by slaughterhouses, which are the necessary paraphernalia of the modern metropolis. The propensity to utilize nature's own gifts is still there, even in the heart of modern civilized man. The leaders of modern civilization select their own residential quarters in a place where there are such naturally beautiful gardens and reservoirs of water, but they leave the common man to reside in congested areas without parks and gardens. is very, we've just mentioned one example. It could be anywhere. You generally see that the leaders, just like here, in New Govardhana, the leaders of modern civilization are residing. You're living here in paradise, huh? Heavenly planet, something like that, isn't it? Well, in one sense, you are the leaders. We're supposed to be, but leading people in the right direction, not just manipulating or what's the word? Exploiting others, but actually serving, the greatest service. Come to New Govardhana. Okay, they may like the scenery, everyone does. They love the walks, the forest, the beautiful lakes and this and that. But the essential factor is the devotee wants them to pick up Krishna consciousness. So you make everything Krishna conscious. The danger of this situation, we get carried away with it. Prabhupada said sometimes, the problem with my disciples is they want to go to heaven. We want to enjoy. We have this enjoying propensity. And this is another subject which maybe will come up. But let's carry on. Herein, of course, we find a different description of the city of Dwarka. It is understood that the whole dham, or residential quarter, was surrounded by such gardens and parks with reservoirs of water where lotuses grew. It is understood that all the people depended on nature's gifts of fruits and flowers without industrial enterprises promoting filthy huts and slums for residential quarters. Advancement of civilization is estimated not on the growth of mills and factories to deteriorate the finer instincts of the human being, but on developing the potent spiritual instincts of human beings and giving them a chance to go back to Godhead. Development of factories and mills is called ugra karma, or pungent activities. I always like to use this. Any of you from United Kingdom? UK, I don't know what they call it. You're from anyone else? Don't be embarrassed. It's not the end of the world if you were made in England. There is still hope for us. Even though we're Pommies, there's still hope. Pardon? Where are you? There you are. You're born in England? Oh, you're not born in. You're not from England. You have to be made in England, Huh? Well, there's something related to it. Anyway, it's funny how UK, where did all this start, this Ugra Karma? Not London, but in what we call now UK. It should be called DUK, D-U-K, Disunited Kingdom, but anyway. UK, they call it United Kingdom. And UK stands for Ugra Karma. And it started there. All this Ugra Karma started right there in England. Isn't it? The Industrial Revolution started right there in Shropshire. Then it moved over Newcastle, this place, that place. Huge factories producing all this bombs and this and that. Yes, and United States of America. Anyone from USA? You grew up there, but you weren't made there, were you? No, you weren't made in USA. And there's not many from that side of the world here. I use the term USA, unlimited sinful activity. I won't say what Australia. You have to work one out there. Australia, I can't say anything. Filthy huts. Dear. Even in New York, I was just in New York. It's almost as bad as Paris. It's like a big slum almost. You get your nice spots, but much of it's like a big slum, just like Paris. Everyone goes to the center of Paris, or part of it. You don't see the majority of it. It's like a slum. Dangerous slum at that. Development of factories and mills is called Ugra Karma, UK. And such activities deteriorate the finer sentiments of the human being and society. And this is a very profound statement of Prabhupada's, isn't it? Is it on the board? No. It is. Oh, so you're following it. Take it off the board. There's no fun like this. You don't need a memory. Take it off the board, whoever's doing it. There's no use of your memory. It's like that nowadays, you know. Another symptom of this age is the memory's gone because you don't use it. This is part of the very verse we just read. You know, utilizing the nature of gifts in their proper way. You're supposed to use your memory. All we use is flaming, you know, computers and mobiles and added calculators and everything else. This thing to learn how to get from the bottom of the property up here, you have to use your GPS. Get from the front gate to the temple. You've been coming here for 50 years, and still you have to use your damn GPS, you know, to get here. Isn't it? Everyone's become super dependent on this Ugra Karma stuff. Okay, we can utilize everything in Krishna's service. We don't depend on it. Confirmed. He's not depending on it. He's utilizing the gifts of nature as they are, isn't it? They're behaving in the right way. That lizard or whatever you call it is behaving according to its nature. We're not. We're not. We're going away from our actual nature. All this stuff is just diverting it. As Prabhupada says, and then the next line, have you taken it off already? Shut down. So you've already read it. Deteriorate the finer sentiments of the human being and society to form a what? What does Prabhupada say? A dungeon of demons. A dungeon. You know what a dungeon is? Dunge. What's a dungeon? What's a dungeon? You use that term? It's amazing, some of these terms are not common nowadays. It could be said to be a hole in the ground, literally speaking, but when we use this word, usually a dungeon, in English, maybe it's not used now. I don't know. Pardon? A deep, dark prison, a hellish prison, a dungeon. You're like stuck in this dark, miserable prison cell. We think it's very nice. You're jumping in your latest Tesla car. You don't have to do anything except for press a button, and away it goes. You've got to charge it. And away it goes. It takes you on your journey, wherever that is. And we think this is very nice. Very nice. And we work hard for our Tesla. You work hard for this and that. Your latest, I don't know what you got. Your latest, what is this? Mobile, what do they call? iPhone. Your latest iPhone. iPhone. We work hard for these things. And you have to wait years, maybe 20, 30 years, paying it all off. Isn't it? You get a house now, 20, 30 years, paying it off. Just, nature providing all the materials, and we have to pay for it. Nature's providing. Not the builder, not the this, not the that. Nature's gifts. It's used. A dungeon of demons. I mean, that's Prabhupada's words. We're creating a dungeon of demons. You can dress nicely, you can learn a lot of things, you can have a lot of money and live in a big house, but it doesn't make you anything different. We find herein the mention of pious trees which produce seasonal flowers and fruits. The impious trees are useless jungles only, and they only can be used to supply fuels. Their only value. And probably you have that here too, I don't know. In the modern civilization, such impious trees are planted on the sides of roads. What is Prabhupada inferring there? They don't even plant them on the sides of roads much, but anyway. Yeah, and previously, and even now, there are some places, in Eastern Europe, whatever people may think, But it's still there in many parts of Eastern Europe. You drive along the lanes in the countryside, on both sides there's just fruit trees everywhere. You can just help yourself. They're just falling off the trees. Apple trees, pear trees, plum trees, they're just falling off the trees. Nut trees, walnut trees. You just help yourself. There's no, I mean, that's what people do. I don't know if there's any rule against it. They're just like public trees. Then in one sense, that's pious. It's pious. I don't know if they had any understanding of that, but whatever. Maybe it's to feed all the gypsies who live there. Maybe, I don't know. But it's at least it's... Otherwise, we see so much of the world now covered in various trees for the printing presses originally, I suppose, or various other means. I don't know. So many of these tall trees, and just nothing. They just cut down for wood. Human energy should be properly utilized in developing the finer senses for spiritual understanding. You know, we're so affected by all of this that we can't concentrate. We can't hear with rapt attention. Isn't it? After 5 minutes, your mind is wandering. After 5 seconds, sometimes it's wandering. Isn't it? You can't sit still like a kid, like a little child, a little boy. How long can they sit down without getting, irritable? Not for long. Maybe exceptions to every general rule are there, but generally we're like that. We haven't grown up. We haven't developed these finer sentiments. We haven't lived in an atmosphere which is favorable. We've been, from birth, many of us, we were probably a slightly generation before some of us, and we didn't have televisions, we didn't have mobiles, we didn't have even telephones, and we didn't have cars, we didn't even have motorbikes, we didn't have any of these modern conveniences. We only had legs to walk with. Of course, here you do a lot of walking, I'm sure, but in some places they hardly walk. They hardly walk. Even this whole thing nowadays, you're working from home, it means you have to do less work, less walking, less this, less that, and you have to spend more money going to the gym because you're so unfit. We used to walk to work. We used to walk or cycle to school. I don't know if you still do that. Some people do. But most people don't. They minimize it. They drive to the railway station, get on a train, get off, catch a bus if it's too far, if it's more than 100 meters to their workplace. Sit there all day long in front of a computer, go home, and they're very disturbed. The wife's doing the same thing in most cases. It's like, it's so unnatural. So unnatural. Very hard to not be unaffected by all of that. Yes. Human energy should be properly utilized in developing the finer senses for spiritual understanding, in which lies the solution of life. Why did Prabhupada want to create farms? Why did he want to create places where people could come and associate? Places of pilgrimage, basically. Fruits, flowers, beautiful gardens, parks, and reservoirs of water with ducks and swans playing in the midst of lotus flowers, and cows giving sufficient milk and butter are essential for developing the finer tissues of the human body. They are essential. Not just nice, but they're essential. Interesting. As against this, the dungeons of mines, factories, and workshops develop demoniac propensities in the working class. This is what's going on. The vested interests flourish at the cost of the working class, and consequently there are severe clashes between them in so many ways. The description of Dwarka Dham is the ideal of human civilization. Think about it. Think about it. Today's verse talks also about swans. There's a verse. Who knows the famous verse? I think it's quoted. Maybe not in the very beginning. Maybe it is. No, it's not. Sometimes we see this verse quoted in the beginning of Srila Prabhupada's books. I can't remember which books. But there's one verse which talks about this subject matter of crows and swans. Who knows? Pardon? Well, that's another verse. That's getting more into the inner crevices of our inner heart. But we're talking externally here, because without getting the external in order, how can we go in? If we don't have finer tissues, how can we really understand finer subject matter? It remains a memory only, something we assimilate in our brain, or whatever it is, which we pick at now and again, but we don't really have the actual experience of actually understanding it, or actually realizing this subject. We may be able to repeat words, but to realize the subject, to live it as one's life and soul, is another thing. This verse is spoken by Narada Muni. Is Narada Muni here? Is he here today? Pardon? Somewhere, you can't see him, huh? He's around. He's everywhere. He kind of goes everywhere, doesn't he? So this is spoken. Who's he speaking to in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavatam? Who's he speaking to? Srila Vyasadeva. Why is he speaking to him? Huh? If Vyasadeva was appearing to seem to be unsatisfied, why was he unsatisfied? Narada Muni pointed it out. Why? Yeah, he hadn't sufficiently glorified the Lord. There was more reference to other objectives in life, dharma. What are the 4 objectives of human, normally of religion, human civilization? What are they? Huh? Yeah, dharma. And from dharma you get artha. Economic development. Then you get kama. What is kama? Desire. Not just desire. It can be said to be desire on the spiritual plane. But in this world, what does it refer to? Lust. Material desire to enjoy. Desire to enjoy the material world. Called lust. Lust is not just a sexual interaction. It is any desire to try to enjoy that which doesn't belong to us. The material world is like, given to us to utilize, but it doesn't belong to us. So this desire that this is mine, this body is mine, I can do what I like with it, is lust. This mind is mine, I can do what I like with it. Of course we can. But this is also a form of lust. It is meant to be used in Krishna's service. This is energy. The world around us, everything, no matter what it is. We should find out how it's meant to be used, how it should be properly utilized, as the verse today was saying. It should be utilized according to its nature. We have to find out what that is. That's what Scripture's there. But unfortunately, he hadn't sufficiently explained that point. He hadn't sufficiently explained how everything was connected to the Supreme Person. And how we're connected. And rather, he'd given these other goals with more emphasis than he had pure devotional service. And liberation is the 4th one, moksha. More emphasis was placed. He compiled so many scriptures, Puranas, the Vedas, so many texts. Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita was there, but only a small part. It was almost hidden within it. So he was not satisfied. Something missing. Feeling undone, Prabhu? Narada Muni said to him, feeling undone? Something not quite right? And then he pointed out the error. So in regards to the literature, and of course nowadays, I don't know what people read nowadays, I'm not exactly in detail, but it's probably the same in principle as it was before, but it's all completely materialistic. Even our endeavor for material knowledge, which to a certain degree is required, that's understood. But going overboard, spending a whole life studying this, studying that, studying this, studying that. And what is the result of it all? You have to see. What is the result of it? A dungeon of demons. And what is the use of it all? Is it making people... It's just entertainment, we could say. Maybe it's like a drug or something, makes you forget about everything else, absorbing our consciousness in some fictional thing, Harry Potter or whatever it is. I'm sure many of you have read or have are reading, or have, maybe not, but at least I've seen a lot of people reading this book. I've seen it in devotees' houses. Harry Potter. Maybe there's some benefit from saying Harry Potter. I don't know. We hope so. We hope so. But it's not exactly transcendental literature, you know. It's not going to make you happy. It may be entertainment, it may be fun for the time being, you know. But that's called lust. That's what sense gratification is. You read in the Bhagavad Gita, happiness, you know, which is, in the beginning, it may be, you know, get some happiness, but in the end, it turns to misery, frustration. It doesn't lead to liberation even, what to speak of devotional service. We want to hear things, relate to things which help us come closer to Krishna. So he was he was actually chastising Narada Muni, was in principle of disciplic succession, the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. And he was chastising him. You've done it in the name of doing a service. In one sense, you've done a disservice. People get the wrong impression. The wrong impression what it's all for. They think it's something material, to achieve some material objective, to get freed of suffering, to get liberation, develop mystic powers, to become God, or something like whatever, all kinds of different things. And people will pick it up. You must make it clear what the ultimate goal is. Not just the stages in between, but the ultimate goal. What's the purpose behind it? So this beautiful verses here, 2 verses I think, or maybe 3. I'll just read 4. Although, great sage, you have very broadly described the 4 principles beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva. Those words, this is famous verses, these 2. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. So if we're still deriving pleasure there, we have a little homework to work on. We have a little work to go for. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Crows and swans are not birds of the same feather because of their different mental attitudes. The fruitive workers or passionate men are compared to the crows, whereas the all-perfect saintly persons are compared to the swans. The crows take pleasure in a place where garbage is thrown out, just as the passionate fruitive workers take pleasure in wine and women and places for gross sense pleasure. The swans do not take pleasure in the places where crows are assembled for conferences and meetings. They are instead seen in the atmosphere of natural scenic beauty, where there are transparent reservoirs of water, nicely decorated with stems of lotus flowers in variegated colors of natural beauty. That is the difference between the 2 classes of birds. Nature has influenced different species of life with different mentalities, and it is not possible to bring them up into the same rank and file. Similarly, there are different kinds of literature for different types of men of different mentality. Mostly the market literatures which attract men of the crows categories are literatures containing refused remnants of sensuous topics. They are generally known as mundane talks in relation with the gross body and subtle mind. They are full of subject matter described in decorative language, full of mundane similes and metaphorical arrangements. You have to get your dictionary out here. Yet with all of that, they do not glorify the Lord. Such poetry and prose on any subject matter is considered decoration of a dead body. This body is dead. It's matter. It's only because the soul is in there there's any life in the super soul and the jiva. Otherwise it's dead matter like everything else around us. We're so kind of infatuated with this body, isn't it? it just captivates our consciousness, doesn't it? Oh, we're so attracted or repulsed, whatever it is. Yes. Where do we get to here? Dead bodies. Spiritually advanced men who are compared to the swans do not take pleasure in such dead literatures, which are sources of pleasure for men who are spiritually dead. These literatures in a mode of passion and ignorance are distributed under different labels, but they can hardly help the spiritual urge of the human being, and thus the swan-like spiritually advanced men have nothing to do with them. Such spiritually... Oh, there goes the bell. They're excited, getting fired up over there. This is the excitement. Can we finish this purport and verse, and time won't allow. We'll carry on tomorrow. But we'll finish the purport in the next verse. Such spiritually advanced men are also called manasa, because they always keep up the standard of transcendental voluntary service to the Lord on the spiritual plane. This completely forbids... Let me go back. Let me see. What do we get there? Such spiritually advanced men are also called... What are they called? Pardon? They're also called... They could be called Mahatmas. What did Prabhupada say here? I can see there was a distraction of mind in that direction there for the stomach and tongue took over there. What did Prabhupada say? They're also called, the word for Manasa Sarovar. What is that? It can be used in different ways. The lake of the mind, but also referring to the swan-like. Manasa. And they're also called manasa. Where do we get to? Because they always keep up the standard. What standard? If you didn't get manasa, you may not get this. Transcendental, voluntary service to the Lord, on the spiritual plane. This completely forbids fruitive activities for gross bodily sense satisfaction or subtle speculation of the material egoistic mind. It forbids it. Those type of endeavors bind us in this world. Social literary men, scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, and politicians who are completely absorbed in the material advancement of sense pleasure are all dolls of the material energy, instruments of the material energy. They may think they're controllers, but they're actually instruments. And one may wonder how that works, because everything is under the control of the Supreme Lord. And of course there's karma here involved. They have their desires, but they get it in a karmic way. And in this day and age, in this Kali Yuga especially, of course, it's a very degraded age. So we'll see these tendencies. You don't have much seasonal changes here, a little bit. Winter is colder, obviously. Every age has its characteristics, and this is the characteristic of this age. You can't change the characteristics. What we can do, and that's what has to change, as Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said, one who thinks they can reform this world is in need of reform. No one can reform this world but by the breadth of the hair. Nobody. Anyone who appears to do is simply an instrument in the hands of providence. The only reform which is required is how we see this world. Nothing else. And that can be evoked by exposing ourselves to the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that's your task here, to train all the birds, as Prabhupada mentions here, on this property, to sing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Wouldn't it be amazing if, all the birds were singing Hare Krishna here? It would be amazing if all the devotees were singing Hare Krishna here. That would be a good start. Instead of gossiping and wasting time on nonsense. Isn't it? It would be a good start. A very good start. Perfect. Yeah, they take pleasure. We're talking about the dolls of material energy. It's like puppets in Maya's hands. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matters are thrown. Criticizing, fault-finding, all kinds of negativity and so on. According to Swami Sridhar, this is the pleasure of the prostitute hunters. The word prostitute in Vedic terms is used a little different to what it is nowadays. Where persons are just looking for someone to enjoy or something to enjoy. But literatures which describe the glories of the Lord are enjoyed by the Paramahamsas who have grasped the essence of human activities. It would be nice if we actually had an absolute attraction for hearing the Bhagavatam. Absorption. And the next verse, which is very famous, and we'll finish on this, we'll finish on the next one, because I won't read the purport, we'll just read quickly the verse. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward, this is a very famous statement, toward bringing about a revolution in, is it on the board? No, okay. It's on your mobile. A revolution in the impious life of the world's, can't hear. Misdirected civilization. Misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. And that's a topic maybe we'll take up tomorrow, because it sort of sounds strange in one sense. And the next verse, text 12, and this we're finished just by reading this, knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. So even so-called spiritual knowledge, without that conception, or the right conception of the Supreme Being, is not good. Doesn't look well. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? That's the proper utilization of nature's gifts, to utilize them for the service of the Lord. That's their only purpose. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So we want to see you all flying around today, chanting Hare Krishna, Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. See all you flying around the property, all singing the holy names, okay? Accompanied by all the parrots and lorikeets and whatever else. What's that beautiful red bird called you told me? What is it? That big one? Rosellas, and whatever else you got floating around. Parrots, king parrots, whatever. So many beautiful birds. You're blessed here now. Let's really make this Goloka Vrindavan. Let's make this the atmosphere, non-envious. One of the main characteristics of these holy places, there's no envy allowed there. No envy, no matter what. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Tomorrow we'll try to cut short for questions.